Tonight is Tuesday, April 26th, and welcome to the SLVEN general meeting. We are hybrid. We're here at the Felton Library Community Room, and we're also online in Zoom. So thank everyone for coming, and we've got this little camera. I'm going to spin this around, and we'll be able to say hi to the folks in the room. We've got a great meeting tonight. We're going to be talking about defensible space. We've got Cal Fire here, and I've got some important reports. Let's see. First, let's just go around the room and we'll say hello. So I'm going to hop back and get behind the camera. And for the hello, just first name and city that you live in, county you live in, and then we'll get on to our agenda. So with that, here we go. I'm going to start over here.
Caroline Elam on the board of SLVEN.
Welcome, Caroline.
Research.
Andrew Wolverine.
Hi, Andrew. Welcome.
Jen Hooker, I live in Live Oak.
Welcome, Jen.
Bill Fiddler, Felton.
Thank you. Tina Biddle. Hi, Tina. Allison Felton.
Kyle also Felton.
Behind the counter.
Patrick Rose, Felton.
And
And then Eric Reiter with Cal Fire. I live in Placer.
wow, awesome. So online, who we have? Liz and Dan, want to say hello?
Hey there.
Hi.
Normally from Felton, currently in Lone Pine Campground.
Yep.
Awesome. And how about Lisa?
Hi, everybody. Lisa here. I live in Bonnie Doon.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Lynn Sestak from the Fire Safe Council of Santa Cruz County.
Welcome. And Gwen.
Gwen Logston from Scotts Valley.
Awesome. So we've got a few reports. The first report I want to get to is from Felton Fire.
My name is Patrick Rosso. I'm a firefighter with Felton Fire. I'm also our squad president. Squad's kind of like a union. It's our club amongst the firefighters where we get together, we raise money, make decisions. It's kind of a democracy thing over there. But I wanted to just present two things really briefly. The first thing is we are doing our Mother's Day pancake breakfast again, our Sunday, May 8th, 8 a.m. to noon. Adults are $12, children are $8. Eggs, sausage, pancakes, obviously, French toast, coffee, juice. It's just a general fundraiser for our group. It's also a way just to have everybody come together. I think it's pretty much the first big event in the Valley, kind of amongst the fire departments since COVID. So it's very exciting for us to just kind of get out and see everybody. We have a lot of new faces over there because we haven't seen anybody's faces for 2 years. So a good chance to come out and also just meet the firefighters. Come meet the firefighters and the captains and the engineers and the chief and everybody like that. We're also using it as an opportunity to kick off a major fundraising push we're doing right now. We are trying to raise $30,000 that will go towards new AEDs and a Lucas device. AEDs are the devices when you're in cardiac arrest, and I won't go into the science of it, I just kind of know how to use them. But basically, they're the things you put on you that shock your heart back to a proper rhythm. So real quick, I can just use this as an example. That's the Lucas device. The Lucas device is kind of like a pump with a big old suction cup on it. And I'm sure you're all familiar with CPR. That performs the compressions for you. It's a fairly new piece of technology. There's not a lot out in the county right now. We have a demo unit right now at Felton. The really cool thing about that, especially for the Valley and for volunteer departments such as Felton, is we don't always have a ton of staff that can come out. So this allows us to take our hands off the compressions and go do other things. It is also extremely helpful, being that if you're in some of these far out places like Forest Lakes or things like that, and medics may be the way this allows us to keep doing compressions. And not only keep doing compressions, but keep doing like high quality CPR, which is what makes the difference when somebody suffers a cardiac arrest or something of that sort. So that's a component of it. And then the other component are the AEDs. We currently have AEDs at Felton. Everybody's got them. We are just looking to revamp. Ours are aging. So we'd like to get the next generation of them. The ones we're looking at are helpful because they can connect with devices AMR uses. So everybody's technology plays nicely. And then we want to get a couple additional ones so that we can have basically more. One of our older ones will be put up in the community room, so we have that for community use. And then we would have the new additional ones on all of our engines, all of our trucks, things like that. But so yeah, we're looking to raise money. Mother's Day is kind of the big kickoff for that fundraiser. We have a GoFundMe going right now. There's a QR code right on the thing, and then there's also a link within this document that I shared. That's the link. That's the QR code. Either or will bring you to our GoFundMe page. You can donate. You can encourage your friends to donate there. You can go up there, donate. It is it is tax deductible. So it's helpful for taxes and it's helpful for the community. Like I said, unfortunately, I have to keep this short, but I can give you all my email address. It's prosso, and that's P as in Paul, ROSSO, Robert Ocean, Sam Ocean, at feltonfire.com. You're welcome to email me if you have any questions about it. If you want to check out the unit. We only have the demo unit, I think, for another week. This is our big fundraiser kickoff right now. There's a little bit more explanation on the GoFundMe about, why we're doing it, what we're trying to do, and what exactly the devices do. But we're asking the community to come out, help us out with this, and support us with it. And, I understand money's tight, so if you don't want to do that, but you want to come get some pancakes, we do have Mother's Day pancake breakfast coming.
That's for one system.
No, that would buy the $30,000 will get us one Lucas system and then 6 AEDs. So that would revamp all of our engines in addition to our battalion chief, our assistant chief, and our chief's truck. So, and that's been a big thing for me is we have these devices. Not saying our devices aren't good and they won't save your lives, but as technology progresses, it's kind of time for us to update. So what we have is good, but it's aging, and we're looking to get onto the new system in the next generation of those.
I just wanted to let people know that, because I know this is of interest to many of you, CERT will have a booth there and may provide some volunteers to help with this event. And part of the reason I know I wanted to bring this up also is that I know that Lynn, maybe some of the Firewise folks are looking for events to table at. And if there's any interest in that field, then I would suggest that you contact the fire department. I know on Tuesday and Wednesday mornings, or Tuesday and Thursday mornings, the main number at the firehouse, you can reach Lori. And so that would be helpful also. So I'm just letting you know we're all there for you for Felton Fire. And yeah, we have pancakes too. And it's good. So anyway, that's all.
Yeah, and if you are interested in Firewise, Captain Dawson, Audrey Dawson, is kind of our lead on that. So if you call there, she works Sunday through Wednesday. So if you call in around that time, she's definitely available to talk to you. And she'll be there serving pancakes, so you can talk to her face to face. Awesome. Excellent. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I have to jam. I'm sure his presentation is far more interesting than mine. But thank you guys. I have to go. Y'all have a great night.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So let's see. A couple other announcements. One that I've got is SLVEN is going to be participating in the Redwood Mountain Fair. So the Redwood Mountain Fair has been an annual event in the Valley for many years, as many of you know, and we're back this year. Yay, since COVID. So the date of the Redwood Mountain Fair is June 4th and 5th. And we are volunteering to fill one of the duties for the fair. And So that duty is the fair's perimeter monitoring, and we're going to be using MERS radio, so no license required, easy communication for observe and report. And we're looking for volunteers. We need basically 5 people for every shift. There's 5 perimeter locations around the fair. We'll be close enough to actually hear the music this time, which will be really fun. And should be a fairly easy assignment. And we can take signups now, and we'll be doing this for several weeks. So we're looking for anyone who's got some interest in doing that. The radios are sufficiently easy that it really doesn't require any prior experience, but we will have a training in advance. So if you're interested in that, then you send an email to info@SLVEN.org, or you can contact me after the meeting, and I'll be reaching out to people as well. Also, we've got here with us this evening someone from Firewise in Ben Lomond, and
Ms. Lynn Sestak from the Fire Safe Council. Some do the Firewise coordination for the county, and I appreciate that Tina is there. She's one of our new Firewise leaders in Ben Lomond. And Tina came up with a great idea of trying to organize some sort of event or be part of a bigger event for San Lorenzo Valley, so that we could have a table to promote Firewise to more San Lorenzo Valley communities. We've got a good showing already in San Lorenzo, but we'd like to increase that in the year to come. So just kind of a heads up. I know that Liz and Dan have already been made aware of the fact that Tina was interested in coordinating something, and I'd be helping too. But if there are events coming up where we could have a table to help promote Firewise, or if there's other occasions where we might be able to have a presence and promote Firewise and the benefits of Firewise, please keep us in mind. So thank you.
great, thank you so much. Okay, well, with that, then we'd like to welcome to the front of the room Battalion Chief Bither from CAL FIRE, who's going to catch us up on everything about CAL FIRE that we didn't already know, and a little bit about himself. So come on up,
Sure.
Eric. So welcome.
Right. So thank you for letting me present this first thing. I appreciate the opportunity. So I'm going to have, because I have our DSI inspector here today, Andrew. I didn't know that he was going to be here, but he has a lot more information on defensible space, Public Resources Code 4291, and what we're doing throughout the communities and local area in order to get the information out and ensure that our homes are hardened and we're working. So I also put together a presentation on CAL FIRE and what we do as well. So a little bit about me. I started in 1999 with CAL FIRE in Amador, El Dorado. Like I said earlier, I live in Placerville. I still live there. So I commute to work. And our shifts are 3 days. I work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I have a partner that works on the back half, which would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we share those duties as is. So what I'm responsible for is Battalion 3, which is the Ben Lomond area, Felton, the Summit, pretty much everything from Highway 17 north, from the coast to the Summit to the county line. So any significant calls, that's my responsibility, and I go and respond to those calls as well with our local agencies such as Felton, Ben Lomond, and Scotts Valley, and Boulder Creek. So we are working on those relationships as well. I've been in contact with a lot of the chiefs in order to work on those relationships, ensure that we're working together as well. So, and that's important to me. So I also have a couple of volunteer companies within the battalion that I serve as well. So, which is Davenport, Bonnie Doon, And then we also have lost two breaks as well. So I'm kind of in charge of those individuals, so the paid staff as well. I also am responsible for them. So I started in '99 in Amador, El Dorado. I worked my way up through the ranks from firefighter to battalion chief, which is where I'm at. So Cal Fire's, it's a big agency, and it is a state agency. We have a lot of resources, and we have a lot of programs that I'll get into with the PowerPoint. So I was in Amador, El Dorado for about 8 years. I transferred to San Benito, Monterey, where I worked there for about 15 years and traveled back and forth. And then I was promoted to battalion chief, and I came to CZU in October of 2020. So I'll get into some of, I'm sure there's probably some questions in regards to the complex. I wasn't necessarily here and around. I'll try to answer what I can, but if there's specifics to that, I'll have to defer that. I guess I could take some questions too, if there's anything.
I'm trying to remember the full name of the fire.
Yes, CCU, it's like the August complex. So I'll go into, and I have some statistics on that a little bit, and we can see where we're currently at, our levels, and what we're doing to kind of prepare for that. As most know, we are going around and we are doing some different projects within the community, such as chipping is one of those. Just got done with 2 weeks of chipping in the Bonnie Dude area. We do a lot of mastication work as well, piles, do some controlled pile burning up in Bonnie Dude, and some of the demo works as well. So we're actively trying to get rid of the biomass that has accumulated 100+ years in these mountains. So we are trying to do some of those programs. We also have a curtain burner program, and that's essentially a box where we put the biomass into, and it's an incinerator, and it gets rid of large amounts of material. So doing that by the camp right now. I'll go more into that as well. So, if you want to go to slide 2, and then just kind of the intro of what we do, is the first one. So this was just pulled in from the YouTube. I went to the Cal Fire, who are we, and put a hyperlink in the PowerPoint. And, it's a quick minute video of some of the things that we do. The first calls that we go to the fire, that's all within. On that video, we just got our new Blackhawks. So have gone to the legislature. Our legacy aircraft are starting to get, it's difficult to find any parts for our Archimedes. The military has decommissioned the Bell 205, which is what we were using. And so we've gone to legislature, that has been approved. We've gotten 14 aircraft from Sikorsky. They've won the bid within that. And so now we're starting to see these new Blackhawks come online, which is a good thing because it's going to be able to deliver more water and they're a quicker aircraft. So to and from dip sites in order to get water where it needs to be. So we also have a C-130 program as well that we're actively working on, and that should come online sometime within 2024. There's some contract challenges that are going on, but essentially those aircraft are painted with CAL FIRE. There is no tank in them right now because the military still owns them, and the Air Force has to do all the retro in order for us to take control of the aircraft. So we're working on that as well. So, all right, so if we go back to PowerPoint, and then we'll go to the next one with the CAL FIRE hyperlink. Okay, so if we go, and anybody can get on this, this is all about basically CAL FIRE and what we do. One of the things that I thought was pretty interesting that anybody can go to is the incidents. So if you click on that, you have all your incidents from when that web page was started. So so if we go to the 2022 and kind of where we're at right now, and it doesn't necessarily have, these are the current fire and then the fires that we have had throughout the state. And then if you go into last year's and so forth, you'll see the total acreage and the number of fires as well. So which I thought was pretty interesting. And then you can click on one of the fires or whatever and see information on where it was and what it was doing. So, which is the link for if you guys wanted to go to that for whatever. Which was kind of good. And then you can, it has all the information on CAL FIRE as well. So total acreage burned in 2021. If you go to 2020, which is probably what we should go to, and you have a number of incidents, and pay attention to the total acreage. So, and then as you progressively get down lower and lower into the years from when, CAL FIRE was started in 1885, I don't think there's probably data on that, but you have all the information on the fires throughout the year and the large campaign fires that we're going to. One of the things that I can, I'll say is that our fuel moisture levels within the Santa Cruz Mountains is low, and it is in a critical state right now. Granted, we did just get some moisture that came through, and that got us to about the average rainfall amount, but it's still not enough to get us out of a drought condition. So the last time we pulled fuel moistures, and we have a forester that goes out and cuts fuel moistures throughout the county at different locations, and we get historical data from there. And currently, from about a month ago, we were sitting at 90%, which it goes all the way up to 600%, but 60% for your fuel moistures is critical. So we are ahead of that drying out period in regards to our fuel and our fuel moistures. And so We have to take all that information in and figure out what we're going to do as an agency, as local agencies, how we're going to effectively fight fire and get that information out to also our firefighters. Yes.
Do you reassess every few months or quarterly, or
Yes.
is this your one big exam for the year sort of thing?
No. That's what that individual's job is. That individual goes out and they strictly collect the different species, and then we dry that and cure that out over a certain amount of time, and then he's able to grab that data, and that's usually done. I believe he's doing that monthly.
Okay.
And then when we start getting into critical levels, then he'll go out and do that a lot more. Or if we're going to have a controlled burn within that area, then I'll have them go out and collect fuel samples, so we know what the potential is, and we know possibly what's going to happen within that fire, how that's going to react.
Are you trying to get at the water vapor level in the wood? Is that...
Correct. So it's the fuel moisture within the species that we're collecting. So chamise and manzanita are usually the common species that we're collecting, and that will give us a gauge of where we're at based on the historical data, and then we can take an average and figure out where we're at with that too. So, yeah, good question. And then I also went into the strategic plan. If we wanted to hit that, we can, but it's really our mission statement, our vision, and values, and how we operate within the state's mission. Just the overview: we protect 31 million acres of private and state. So SRA is what we tend to call it. So our agency, state responsibility area. So anything that, when we have a fire within any district, a wildland fire, that's CAL FIRE's authority, and we will assist other agencies, but that's our responsibility to take that on. So if we get a structure fire within Felton, and that fire, house fire, gets into the wildland, we're supposed to be called. We go out and do an investigation and figure out whose responsibility that is. But and then any other resources. So we're working together with Felton and SLVEN, Boulder Creek as well, in order to effectively keep everybody safe. So. We have 36 California's 58 counties and local contracts. So within those counties, we are responsible for the fire protection. We respond to everything from wildland fires to motor vehicle accidents, you name it. We're supposed to do that. So, state's mission. And then next slide. And you saw the call volume and everything else that we do respond to within the state. We have over 3,000 fire and emergency response vehicles, and that everything from fire engines to service trucks to utility trucks to battalion chief vehicles as well. So,
Question?
yes.
Has that number of vehicles grown since the CZU fire, or has it been pretty
within the unit is what you're asking?
Statewide,
Yes.
because one of the problems was we didn't have enough resources across the state.
Right.
Has that changed?
Yes, and so what we've done as an agency is we put in BCPs to the governor, and whether the governor agrees on those or not, he will give us the funding for that. So we have secured funding for more vehicles. We're working on right now trying to get more personnel in order to operate those vehicles. We also have just purchased, I believe it was 10 brand new bulldozers, and that's just coming out right now. And that hasn't been done in years. So as an agency, we're looking at where we're lacking, and one of those is personnel.
Can you talk more about personnel? Are you
Sure.
having trouble hiring like all the teachers and?
Sure.
so forth?
Like everybody else, we are having challenges in order to get individuals that have the required training and background to be hired within the state. So when I got hired, it was 18, and you didn't have to have necessarily training. Nowadays, individuals are coming in with EMTs. A lot of the folks coming in have bachelor's degrees and so forth. So, but like when I got hired in '99, most of the time it was 18, and that's what we did as a seasonal job. And that's how I got started, was a seasonal job, and then I would go back to college in the winter time, and then I would come back and then I would get my rehire rights. I only had to do, I believe it was 60 days, and then you get your rehire rights back. So, but fast forward, and now where we're at right now, most of the folks coming in are a little bit older. And the reason being is because it is still a seasonal job per se, but they're working 9 months. And so it's difficult in order to go back to school and do this job as well. And we're seeing a age and a culture change within the departments. And that's one of those is having personnel in order to operate the vehicles that are qualified and that have the training. So right now we have, I believe it's 2.7 personnel per engine, which we're trying to get to 3.2. Which will essentially create a new platoon of folks to operate the engine. So it's not uncommon for us to, like I said, I work 3 days. That's my normal shift. But if I'm forced on duty because another battalion chief has gone out and taken the strike team out, then I have to stay back and cover the local area or what have you. So, or if I go on to an extended fire, it's not uncommon for us to be gone for 30+ days from our family. So a lot of folks that we're finding don't want to do that and don't want to be away from their family for that long. I don't blame them. I've got a family too, and I like to be home, but that's just how I got started and what I do. So, but we are trying to get to that, and I believe there's another BCP that has just gone in and hit the governor's desk in order to get funding for the personnel.
Are you relaxing requirements at all in terms of trying to, you mentioned volunteer programs that CAL FIRE is doing?
Right, so within Santa Cruz unit, we have volunteer companies as well. So that's through the county. And those individuals wear the county patch, but we administer and we help with their training as well. So it's kind of a two-pronged thing. So you have CAL FIRE, and then you have Santa Cruz County as well, which I believe Andrew is aren't you on?
Yeah,
Andrew's a volunteer
with South Skyline Fire. So the idea is that by having the volunteer companies in strategic places and having CAL FIRE providing management, supervision, oversight, and training, there's additional resources available. So in theory, if all of CAL FIRE was called out of county, the volunteer companies could step up. And I know the volunteer companies are instrumental in lightning complex because they have a lot of understanding.
Okay. And that's one of those challenges, and one of the things that we're trying to do is balance that, is make sure that we have personnel here in order to take care of any emergencies within the county or the here, with the supplementation of the volunteers that help us.
Let's
Yes.
let's just
Okay, so moving on with the PowerPoint, and then I'm sure there's going to be more questions. So anyways, that's our fleet program and our wheels program. And then moving on, and I talked a little bit about the aviation program. Basically, 1958 was the first contracted air tanker. And then from there, 1970, we started moving into a progression of having aircraft. So the aircraft that we have flying, other than the Hueys, CAL FIRE owns the Hawks, which are the S-70Is. We lease out our Bells from the Forest Service for like $1 a day or something like that. And then our tankers are owned and operated by Dynacorp. But they provide the pilots. Our pilots and the helicopters are CAL FIRE employees. 60 fixed and rotary wing right now, largest civil aerial firefighting fleet in the world. 13 air tanker bases, 10 CAL FIRE helitack bases. So one of the local ones around here is Alma Helitack Base, and they most likely are going to be going to the Moffett at some point in time. So that's something that we're looking at as well within the unit. So, and then we also have Bear Valley Helitack, which is where I came from. I worked 10 years there, but they are being moved to Hollister in order to supplement the surrounding area. So the idea of the air program is that we can get firefighters and water to a location within 20 minutes of that base. Yeah, sure. Our resources management program, 85 million acres. And then we also have, we are helping with management on timber harvest plans, best forest practices in order to have the board feet. So we are helping with that, and we have some of our foresters that go out and help some of the local loggers and so forth. And then obviously the income that brings into the state. We have one of our demo forests, which is SoCal Demo Forest, and I didn't bring that presentation, or I know that there's a video on that you can go online and look at, but we are trying to use different practices and silvicultural practices in those demo forests. So we have in Davis, we have our seeding program, and so they'll grow some of those seeds, and then those get shipped out to the different units, and then we'll go out and plant and replant. It's one of the things that we do.
Are you guys involved in any replantings in the area of the CZU burn? I mean, I'm assuming that there was a substantial burn, but is there any regrowing that practice that's happening yet in those areas?
I have not heard if it's in those specific burned areas in order to reseed. So I'll get that answer for you, but I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to that. Okay, so next one would be another program that we have, which is law enforcement, and some of the statutory responsibilities that we have. So which gets into some of the laws and regulations on how we can do things. So Public Resources Code 4291, which is defensible space that we'll get into. And I brought a couple examples, and I didn't know that Andrew was going to be here to talk about it, and he's probably one of the better ones to talk about Public Resources Code 4291, because he is one of the inspectors that goes out and inspects those properties. So, So, and I think that's on the next slide. So, defensible space, and what is it? Hardening of your structures in order to stand without having a fire engine there. So ideally, that's what we want to get to. You want to? You don't have to.
No, I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
I'll try to keep it real short, just, get me off when we're ready. So my name is Andrew Clark. I've actually been a member of the Boulder Creek CERT team, and ironically enough, I ended up getting into CAL FIRE because I was at a presentation being given by CAL FIRE Battalion Chief to Ben Loman's CERT about wildfire. And one thing led to another. I asked a bunch of silly questions, and 3 years later, I'm here as a forestry technician, defensible space inspector. So when we talk about defensible space, the PRC Public Resources Code 4291 is basically the state legislature telling CAL FIRE, go out and look at people's houses and make sure that there's adequate space around them. But this is one of those subjects that becomes very complicated in a hurry. And I want to try to keep it simple while respecting the fact that we have a lot of people in the room who actually have considerable expertise in the subject. So one thing to think about is, with respect to wildfire, there are many types of fuel. And there's grass as a fuel, there's shrubs, there's trees, there's also the fuel that we live in, which is house. And so this particular thing focuses on that one fuel that we obviously don't want to have burned, but it has happened, is the houses. So when I go out as a defensible space inspector with PRC 4291, I basically have this short checklist of things that we know from about 15 years of bitter experience are things that are dangerous. Things like having a branch within 10 feet of your chimney, having a lot of duff or debris on your roof, having wood stacked against your house or under your deck, having a profusion of fuel right next to your house, having unmowed grass. And these things that they may look aesthetic, but what they do is that they dramatically endanger the home in a wildfire. And then if that home itself catches on fire, it in turn casts embers and creates a danger. So we sell defensible space on the idea that we want to protect your house from the burning forest, which is true, but the truth is we want to protect the forest from your house. And so in the Defensible Space Program, CAL FIRE sends out inspectors like me and seasonal staff as well, and our engine companies, and their basic job is to go out and knock on people's doors and say, hi, we're CAL FIRE, we're inspecting, we see these things, and when it doesn't, using a grading analogy, when it doesn't meet the minimum requirements in PRC 4291, it's an act, it's a fail. And we have a little notice, a checkbox, and we try to explain to people. Ultimately, it is technically an infraction. Compliance functionally is voluntary. There's a little bit of back and forth on that. But really, it's just a tool to educate people. Hey, there's this hazard. Now, if the house meets PRC 4291, okay, there's no wood pile under the deck. There's no flammable stuff piled on top of the deck. There isn't 2 years of duff on the roof, whatever the issue is. That's like a C. That's defensible. And unfortunately, defensible implies very strongly that somebody's going to be available to defend it. So that's kind of your C and your F. Complies with 4291, does not comply with 4291. Now your fire safe councils, your firewise community, your local fire district, CAL FIRE as well. We would love to see all these C houses become Bs and As. And taking a C house and making it a B, making it an A, making it something that instead of being defensible is self-defending. That topic is called home hardening. And so home hardening is something that we as defensible space inspectors, when we have the opportunity, point out things that, oh, hey, you can do this. Can you put up like 1/8 inch screening to keep embers from getting into your house? Have you thought about the wisdom of having things that are within 0 feet to 5 feet of the walls of your house? We really want to try to get that to be a no burn zone. These are all things that take a property that might be compliant with the defensible space laws and get it more towards something that might even survive on its own. Obviously, there's no guarantees. And FPA's Firewise program is a way of mobilizing the community around that. The CERT programs have used something called Map Your Neighborhood to encourage neighbors to get together and work together on collective issues. And of course, your local fire district is a wealth of information because they know their local conditions, their local rates, their local situations. I'm happy to answer any questions that people have. I could probably talk at endless length, but I want to defer to Chief Bither.
My question is, I live in a very dense neighborhood in Felton, and I'm wondering what I should be doing with neighbors who are ignoring fire compliance.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to guess Forest Lakes.
No, I call it Bigfoot, Jackson. It's up Bigfoot Hill.
Okay. That one, I don't know that I've inspected that one, or at least if I have, I don't know by that name, but I've walked on foot everything that's in the Forest Lakes community in Felton from the top to the bottom. And so one of the things that we have in Felton is we have a lot of built vacation homes that are now in full-time occupancy. The roads, the infrastructure, the services were never designed for that. Forest Lakes was built with 5 emergency escape routes. It presently has 1.5. So there's these kind of community issues that you get together with your neighbors, your road association, your special district groups like SLVEN here tonight, and you work on those collective issues. For the individual issues, there's a common problem that I don't have a good answer to, which I think is what you're getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong. You might have a 3-acre parcel, and my house and my surroundings and the 100 feet around the house, which is governed by the PRC 4291, is less than half an acre of that. And I have another 2.5 acres I don't use because it's halfway up the hill, or I'm not on it, or there's other issues. And those 2.5 acres don't get maintained. Now, if I have that, and my neighbor has that, and my other neighbor has that, we have this pocket of fuel within the community. And in fire technical terms, we call that the wildland to urban interface. If it's intermixed, like in downtown Felton, we have house, 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 line, managed or semi-managed land like state parks, water districts, what have you. That's the pattern here in downtown Felton. You go in places like Forest Lakes, you have intermix, where it's actually a kind of that, it's a much more interface, it's a much more delicate situation, because now there's pockets of unmanaged natural fuels with houses right next to them. There's houses right next to each other, and it's kind of a mix. And that's the prevailing condition in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
Which creates the challenge of fighting fire within that. So thank you, Andrew.
I'm happy to answer questions later about your specific thing.
Thank you. Well said. Better than I can do. So we also have the wildfire app as well. That's ISO, and I believe Android too, that you can download, and that can tell you a lot about the resources too.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure we've also looked at your website and looked at a lot of those resources in prior meetings here at SLVEN to try to point those out to folks as well. Yeah. Let's see, do you have another slide?
Yeah. Okay, so getting into more of the CZU in Santa Cruz units. So we have 21 units throughout the state. That's how they're broken up. We have a southern region and then a northern region. So Santa Cruz sits on, San Mateo Santa Cruz sits in the northern region. So essentially any fire that happens within the state in the northern region, all of those sections are mobilized, and we send strike teams out, which is a battalion chief and 5 engines to some of the larger fires. So, and then anything in the southern region, the same thing. All those southern region units will do the same thing. And then when they get down to drawdown, that's when we go to some of the other agencies. That's when we go into, we ask the northern region or southern region, can you spare any aircraft? And there's some of those services that are shared in equipment that's shared throughout the state. So we also go into Nevada, Arizona as well. I've also, with CAL FIRE, I fought fire in Montana years ago. So it just kind of depends on what's going on, what the governor's as well. So. Any questions with this? So getting closer into CZU, and the next slide. So this is a lot, and I intentionally did that. This is basically all of our Schedule A, all of our, and the location, all of our Schedule B, all of our resources that we have within the San Mateo, Namahel attack, and then mutual threat zones. So we have something what's called mutual threat zones within the different within the battalion. So I have one with Santa Cruz, which is the border of it's over by the college. So any fires that happen within there, even though that is Santa Cruz Fire Department's jurisdiction, we also come in because there is a threat within the SRA, and now I have the responsibility to go into unified command with that other agency, and then we task share our duties and our resources. And I have the ability to order aircraft where they don't. So, or else they would have to pay for that. So I'll come in, we'll see what's going on, and if there is a threat to the SRA, then that's when we go under unified command, and I'll start ordering resources on the state side. So that way we can supplement what's going on in order to keep some of these fires at a smaller. So, okay, so
this, what you're saying is this represents all the stations and locations that are part of your battalion?
No, that are part of the entire unit.
This unit. Oh,
right.
This unit.
So it has all the Schedule A programs, which Schedule A is essentially like a local government, is kind of how we think of that with CAL FIRE. So those individuals that are within that program, they don't go out to some of these larger fires. And so that resource will stay at home. While our Schedule B resources, which is kind of what I do, which is 02350 coding, those resources will go out to these larger fires, and then we'll backfill with another unit. So, for example, if we get a fire in, let's just say the Dixie fire, we go up there for 30 plus days. I think we had strike teams gone for, it was 60 plus days before we were able to get those engines back. But those engines go up and they're assigned to those larger scale fires. Then we'll ask for the southern region, maybe San Benito, Monterey, hey, do you have 5 engines in order for us to backfill? And either hopefully they'll say yes, they'll give us those engines, and that will come with a strike team leader like myself, a battalion chief, and then we'll backfill those firehouses with resources. So that's kind of in a grand scale how we are able to do some of those things and move some of the engines around and resources around throughout the state.
And in our area, this is overlaid on top of our
Correct.
local fire
this
districts.
Is overlaid over your local fire district. So yes, and those companies or those agencies, Scotts Valley, they're always going to be here as well.
You mentioned the word unified command.
Sure.
How does that happen? So like if a fire were to break out here in the forest of Felton, what do we expect to have? What happens with Felton Fire or CAL FIRE? Like what point do you guys get involved?
We're going to essentially, we do have a fire, confirm that it is a fire, where it's going, how big it's going to be, what community is going to be impacted, any if we need to do evacuations, then the SO will be Santa Cruz County Sheriff will be involved as well, and then we'll essentially go into a unified command, which would be like Chief Gray comes out and meets with me, and we're task sharing, and we're essentially cost sharing our resources. So who's going to pay for what, and how are we going to essentially put out and control the incident. So, and then Santa Cruz County Sheriff might come in as well, and then they'll be involved in the evacuations while we're trying to obviously put out the fire, do perimeter control, as well as help with evacuations as well.
Are you doing trainings, active trainings every year for interfacing between the fire departments?
Yes, yeah, and so that's one of the things that I am trying to do as well. And like the other gentleman said, he has to go to training tonight. Well, I have my 2 engines over at Felton right now that are project engines. They go over and they start training with Felton as well in San Jose. And so I'm trying to work on those relationships with our local agencies in order to effectively
Right.
control what we can.
So where would something like CERT fit in with these trainings? Are you planning at any time in the future to maybe start incorporating civilian cooperation?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. I know that when I got here, that was some of the planning that was happening after the complex. And I went with Chief Larkin and Chief Armstrong, and there was a meeting and a CERT meeting where we were all sitting down and we did a training similar to that. So one of those was debris flow as well. And so we jointly were working on some of those things in the background too. So yes, we are actively doing that.
Also, during CZU, they had, this is PIO. Yeah, I'm talking about trainings, developing that more. How many civilians were involved with the CZU fire? Just roughly, I don't need an exact number. And how many more could be effective in a future fire?
I'm not going to have that information because I wasn't here. Like I said, I got here in October of 2020, and that was right when everything was starting to slow down. I can tell you where I was at during that fire. I was over in Monterey on the Toro fire, and then the Carmel fire, which is where I was at. But I know that we are trying to do that. So Andrew might have more.
This is really quick because it is kind of a topic of consideration. The CERT Auxiliary and the CERT Council of Santa Cruz County is one of the coordination mechanisms by which CERT works with the law agencies and fire agencies. CAL FIRE is an agency that CERT is supported. The local fire agencies are supported by CERT, but the activation goes through what used to be called County OES and is now the Office of Resilience and Recovery. And there has been a lot of places where CERT personnel and CERT teams have played critical roles, but that's something where it has to be handled very delicately because you alluded to training, and one of the examples is classic for CERT is traffic. We've done a lot of traffic control for planned events like parades and festivals. There's also been CERT that's been used for unplanned traffic control for disasters, and a lot of issues in that interface are important. I know that SLVEN functions as within Felton CERT, and I think that's a great question for the CERT leadership here, but also realize that they're working with the CERT Auxiliary and they're making sure that they have the comfort zone of the county and the comfort zone with the fire and the law agencies, because we want to use the CERTs as effectively as we can, but we also don't want CERTs to put themselves in harm's way or hazard situation. So it's a delicate balance.
Yes, you alluded to unified command. I'm assuming that the kind of training is also labeled incident command system, the ICS.
Yes. Yep. And that's the common system that we're all using. All the agencies within California.
Right. CERT is also exposed to that.
Gotcha. Questions?
This is Liz, and I have a question.
Ooh, it's dark there.
Yes, sorry, it's gotten dark here. We're outside. Anyway, has there been a large, and large is such a vague word, turnover at our local, at CZU CAL FIRE recently with regard to management and leadership? It seems
Sure.
that we've had several new faces. Not that that's a bad thing, but I'm just asking. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, so I'm new to the unit. Like I said, I live in Placer County and I drive in, so I'm new. Chief Larkin has since retired. And so we have Chief Armstrong, who was the deputy chief underneath Chief Larkin, who has taken the role of unit chief. So I essentially work for Chief Armstrong, so that's one of the changes that has happened at management level, that upper management level. As a whole with CAL FIRE, we have a new director as well, and so he's trying to staff all of his executive and get people in place as well. So yes, that does happen, and you know, we are such a large agency that people come throughout different areas of the state in order to work. So it's not for some of our firefighters and captains to live in other states, and they travel to California in order to work, and they'll do 14 days and work out their schedules to where they're on duty for 14 days, and then they'll go back home.
I recognize the need to move people around, but did you say Chief Armstrong was active under Chief Larkin here at CZU?
Yes.
Formally.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because I, as a local person, I have a concern that that we're not getting all newbies who don't know the area and don't have their feet planted in our local community. That's all.
Sure,
I know there has to be some changeover, but it gives me comfort to understand that Chief Armstrong came up somewhat through Felton, so that
he was I guess a little bit about him. He was a battalion chief and came up through the ranks as well, like I did. And he was here, I believe, in 2012. He arrived here as a battalion chief, and he worked his way up through the ranks. So, and he currently resides in Ben Lomond, I believe. So he is local. Chief Martinez as well, Chief Gonzalez. So some of the higher executive staff, they do live within the community. Does that answer?
It's helpful to know because I work with the fire department, and I've worked with your office over there as a CERT leader in our area, and just wanted to make sure we still had that continuity when things happen, given the way the CZU fire unfolded for us locally. You know, I want to be reassured that we don't lose the corporate memory about what our successes were there.
Sure, I can understand that, and can sympathize with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to come speak with you. I appreciate it, Tammy, for that, and everybody here, everybody back home. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I would just like to add a comment as you exit. Having worked so closely with y'all during the CZU fire in a citizen capacity, that while there's a lot of stuff that could have gone better, there's a lot of stuff that went really well. And as someone who was sort of more inside the organization than many of our Felton residents were, I was impressed by the skill sets and the organization that I saw unfold as the CZU fire unfolded. So I just want to give you that positive feedback from a community member that's active. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you may want to stick around because we're gonna still have another segment to look at some property photos. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Resource Conservation District. I met Angie Richmond this weekend. Angie Richmond is with the Resource Conservation District of Santa Cruz County. And so they have organized a chipping program. And what that is individual properties, property owners who have done some trimming for defensible space, you've made piles, you can apply to the RCD's chipping program to get those piles chipped. And there's a time window for the application to qualify to get your wood piles chipped. We are in that time period right now. It surprised me personally last year. It was just a little bit later in the year, but it is right now. It's April 1 to April 30th. April 30th is this coming Saturday. So there's a process to apply within this window. And then if you get, after that application process, you qualify, then in the month of, I think it's in the month of May, they will arrange for like third-party people to come by and actually come by your property and chip up all the wood debris, and the wood chip goes right back on your property. So here's the trick about the application process that I learned from Angie this weekend. It's 2 phases. So first you have to go to their website. Their website is rcdsantacruz.org. And I don't have the specific link for this program, but I'm sure you can find it there. You would fill out some information about yourself. You verify that your property is within the service area that's and then once you send that in, their system sends you back a link. And what you're supposed to do is you want to have all your defensible space, all your chipping done. You have your limbs no more or up to 3 piles. Each pile can be 10 feet long, 4 feet high, and 8 feet wide. So once you've done that, you take a picture of that, and then you send that back. You use the link that they sent you to provide this further information of exactly what you have to get shipped up. So that's the second part of the application process. And then you'll find out from then, you'll get notified, when the shipping is going to come around and do that. So I wish that I had known this before, because I think it would have been better to get out the notice like a month ago. But if you still are in a position, maybe you've already done some work on your property, you already have some piles of debris that you might be able to qualify for, great. Just try to do that ASAP this week. Or if you think you can get your chipping get all your stuff cut down on Saturday so you can get a nice photo into them, great, please do that. They will have another program in the summer, and the summer program is a reimbursement program and it also has a different kind of requirement. The participation requirement is 8 or more properties within a neighborhood doing work, and that would be the neighborhood already doing the cleanup and chipping all of the stuff that the neighborhood would have pulled down. It's a reimbursement program because what you're doing is you're trying to get reimbursed for the costs of the chipping. So this one here in the spring is the individual property owners. So so Allison and I took some photos of our properties, and we want to talk about what we've been doing for improving our properties and work we've done that we think is good and work that needs to be done. So you want me to try to do your files?
Yeah, I think they're in the order of what we did right and then what we have not done yet. Preamble to stuff we did right was in past years, we've been inspected and been found wanting with weeds growing up all over the property and duff on our roof and things like that. Forgot to take a picture of our roof, which is now sparkling clean. In fact, we put a new roof on our roof, so we're really good there. One of the biggest things was defensible, that 6 feet of defensible space around the house. We finally we saved up our money and had a walkway put in, which is almost 6 feet wide. It goes all the way around the house. It basically hugs the house. We're thinking of putting a patio in the back there as well, which will take care of a bunch more weeds that we needed to get rid of. We also got rid of some of the rotten wood that was on the back deck when we moved in, so that's better. We limbed up the trees on the right. The trees were basically just hanging right over our house. And now we have sunshine on our roof. So we're not so liable to get a branch on our roof or a bridge for the fire to get on our roof. That's right next to our kitchen there. And then the one below is much of the front yard was just completely overgrown with weeds. And we've taken most of them and we've used the wood chips from some of the trees we had removed and just put them straight on there to temp. I was a little concerned about having wood chip there, but we've been assured that the wood chip is better than the weeds. It's not the best solution, but it's better than having 10-foot high grass there that turns dry in the summertime. So that's just some of the stuff we've done right. Below, we have things that are still found wanting, and this is all, most of it's happened since the rains this winter, and we just haven't gotten around to it. On the left is bushes, basically weeds growing up against the entryway fence next to our house. Weeds also have taken over the propane tank. That's a big no-no. And I think the last one is more weeds have grown up against the house. That's like right in the middle of the wood chips. They've started growing up again. And we need to take all those out. But you'll see that the roof there is relatively clean at this point. Hopefully we'll keep it clean. So. Oh, another thing with having limbed those trees, we will not have to clean off the roof so often.
Yep.
So.
While she's working through her photos, I would have one professional comment for you, and it's basically focus on that zone that's from 0 feet to 5 feet away from the house. You may not be able to get all the weeds at one go, but think about laying down something non-flammable like pebbles or rock or gravel, possibly even something that you can blow over lower. Because what you don't want is you don't want that grass, which is the light flashy fuel, just burning up against the edge of the house. It probably won't ignite, but we don't want to take the chance.
What's interesting is that the grass that was growing up against that fence, we put pebbles down there. And it's the fastest growing grass. It just came right up. That's only like a month's worth of growth.
And that's actually the trade-off from when you took out all the overhead shaded. Now there's more light. So you end up with a lot of compromises in the forest where it's not really like a one-size-fits-all. You want to preserve shade where you can to get the effect of what's called a shaded fuel break or an overhead canopy. But at the same time, you don't want a lot of fuel near the house. Some people will put a ground cover and then put stuff on top of that. Some people will give up and just kind of, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and make everything concrete, but we want to live in a forest. So
Yeah.
there's always gonna be this constant balancing act. The thing
Yeah,
is, you don't want the fire to come right up against the edge of the house. if
that's
possible.
true. That the pebble, the fence part has pebbles, and underneath it has the tarp that you put down under the soil that's supposed to keep the grass away. The
Supposed to.
grass still decided to grow on top of it.
Or
so-
through it. You
And
got
through
it
it.
up, and I find it where it actually went through it.
So just have to pull it.
Now's the time.
Yeah.
Ground's still wet.
All right, so this is my property, Tammy here. And so I've got I've got a nice stand of redwoods in my backyard. And forever I've had ivy, lots of ivy, wall to wall ivy. And me being a lazy gardener, that I thought that was awesome. Not so much anymore. So I just wanted to do a couple photos. So this is like my classic before photo where, it's just so you can sort of see like the wall to wall ivy and the ivy crawling the trees and all of that. And so we've been working away at trying to reduce that. And so this is the best I can do here for navigating my photos. But again, another part of the yard yet to be done, all the way to a fence and other neighbors' properties on the other side there. So this is what it looks like when we remove the ivy, and this has means by hand basically, and yanking up ivy and then digging down and trying to get the little rooty runners that are under the ground and try to yank those up. The duff cover is actually substantially deep because it's basically decades of redwood debris. So there is no weeds growing there at all. It's really dense. And then if there's any little other bits of ivy that come up that are still there, we can go after them because it's easier to see them. I thought that this was I'd have to hire someone to do this work. It turns out that it really isn't physically that difficult to do it. It just takes a long time because the ivy just fills up the green bin in almost no time whatsoever. I do have, there are some ferns that are also growing, and they have these roots that kind of run underground as well. So they've always been there too, kind of intermixed with the ivy, and they're quite pleasant. I was thinking that it would be kind of nice to have some very low natural forest ground cover like sorrel, any of that growing natively on our property. Here's this picture. I took a little red, kind of like a red marker, and drew around like the stuff that we've yet to do. So this is an area that we're actively working on, and like a chunk of that, like this is probably going to take like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know, probably 6 individual like weekends worth of pulling ivy to fill the bin. It only will take it could be like less than an hour till my bin's full. And then that's it. But it's going to take me time over the calendar, as it has already. It's taken months to get to where we are. It'll take us months more to get it done. And the bottom right of the corner is actually not ivy, it's weeds. And that was an area that doesn't have enough of this same kind of duff cover layer. It was actually where we had been accumulating a lot of big branches. So it would come down in the storm, and we would chuck it on this pile. And then we would do a little bit of trimming, and then get chucked on the pile. And that pile kept growing and growing. This was a couple of years ago, but of course the pile lasted for a couple of years. And we hired a guy to come and take the pile away, after which of course the ground was bare. But I didn't think to cover it with like a heavy enough mulch. And so now like the weeds are going gangbusters. So I get to have a weeding project of yanking up all those weeds and then covering them with duff. I think there's actually enough material of duff elsewhere in the yard that I could move some down and prevent weeds. Because that's the next thing is like, I don't want to have a forever weeding project. Let's see. In our front yard, is the front door. I also have a long-term project here. I've got some plants. I'll show you these in a second. This is right by the front door with this overhang. So, you know, plants next to the overhang with a bunch of wood structures. Good idea? No, not such a good idea. So we're working on that. And then these little short walls, I also had pots with overflowing nice plants. So my goal again is to try to move things away from the front door. So this is one of the, here's these plants again, including this one on the left, which is, you know, actively climbing and doing its thing. Such a great idea, not so great for a fire. So we found a spot in our yard that's way further away from the house where we have a wall. We're gonna repot that so it can like climb the wall and be happy but be, you know, 30 feet away from the house. So that'll be great. Great for it, great for us. So this is our next phase is removing these plants because they're just likely to catch fire, and they're the worst spot for it because they're likely to catch this structure on fire. Comments or questions?
Tracy, it's Lynn on Zoom. Just a quick comment. I added a little comment in the chat, but I don't think people in the room can see it. So I just wanted to make people aware of the new program that the Fire Safe Council of Santa Cruz County has come out with. We have a pilot program that is to complement the work that CAL FIRE does with LE 100 inspections. We are doing HIZ, which is Home Ignition Zone assessments. They're educational assessments for home hardening and defensible space for residents in the county. And our pilot program is starting with residents in FireWise communities. So that's FireWise communities in progress or ones that are already recognized. And then when we have a little bit more staff and capacity later this summer, we'll open it up to all residents of the county. So again, it's not meant to compete with what CAL FIRE does, or what Captain Dawson does for Felton Fire. It's meant to complement those services. So just wanted to make you all aware of that service. Thank you.
So I have a question, and it might be I don't know, naive question, but from a fire perspective, you would rather have duff, thick layers than green ivy?
Well, yeah, I realize it's a bit of a trade-off. The duff, you know, if there was I think a risk of fire, one of the things I could do with the duff is I know that I could like break it out and create a gap. Like that was something I had observed during like some of the like the CZU fire, was that, you know, the least you could do is you could create a fire break, especially for that slow moving ground cover fire where it's different than when you've got like, you know, fire at the treetops. Like you've got a slow moving fire that's at the ground level and it's working its way through the neighborhood, and you could actually scrape a zone like and you know, maybe Eric could tell me how wide it is. I'm gonna guess it's something like maybe a 3-foot gap or something, so that you can get bare earth. This, what I've got in my backyard, I could do that because it's just the duff. Ivy, you can't do that, like not with any speed, because it's taking me hours and hours and hours to pull out the ivy. So it's, you know, I'm open to some other ideas or suggestions about what else I could do with my yard so that I don't have like a weed fest and I don't have a fire fest at the same time. I'm not going to put concrete over the whole thing, so open to ideas.
And I think that's one of those trade-offs as well on fire-wise community and hardening your home. In regards to the duff layer, granted, we don't want to see that either right up next to the structure. It is easier to remove, like you are saying. And what our rule of thumb would be is 1.5 times the fuel height. Are we going to accomplish that with 200-foot trees? No, But what we can do is minimize the ladder fuels, and that's what you're doing, is removing those ladder fuels in order for the fire to climb up into the trees and move throughout the canopy. And that's one of the things that does happen within these species as well. But that's what we're trying to minimize, because we can effectively have a hose lay or crew go in, and a ground fire, like you are saying, is much more manageable. And we can put those resources where they need to be, versus a large crown fire that's coming at you, which was similar to, I was experienced within the complex. And some of that has to do with the weather and how that whole thing happened, and where we were at within the state. So, I mean, I've lived in the state since I was born in '81, and I've been fighting fire since '99. I have never experienced a California as smoky as it was for pretty much like 2 months almost, with some of these large campaign fires that were going on throughout the state. So, but essentially, that's to get back to the question. That's what you're doing, is you're removing the ladder fuels. Granted, it is green, you do have that duff layer, but a ground fire is much more manageable for us. And we can, yes, remove that. I mean, ideally, we'd like to see that down to bare mineral soil, but the reality is that's not going to happen within the fire regime that we do have out there. So, and having our DSIs come out and inspect and give you some suggestions, which having that walkway around the home for that ground fire, it's going to hit that concrete, and hopefully, without any control by anybody else, that will go out. I think that's the concept of what Alice was trying to get to was basically that. So also the ornamentals, that's one of those things too with the vegetation. Is it going to burn? Is it not going to burn? That's what the DSI inspector is going to come out and look at. And breaking up the horizontal and vertical continuity is also important too. So trimming of the tree limbs and removing some of those ladder fuels is going to be important. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does. I just seem, I don't know, not intuitive that you would take something that, I mean, ivy doesn't get brown and icky like grass does. Sure. and expose duff, which will burn. But it makes sense. It's taking out the ladder fuels.
I will share one thing. Ivy is one of those plants that is living over dead. So what can happen is if you have ember cast land on a field of ivy, it goes under the ivy. It can't be seen with the eye, but it's still smoldering and burning underneath. Remember, the ivy is over the duff. The ivy is not instead of the duff. So if the choice was ivy or duff, I'd take the ivy. If it's ivy and duff or just duff, I'd take just the duff. Does that help?
Yeah. Well, and you can see it if it's burning in the duff. If it's got covered with ivy, you couldn't.
Yeah.
It is a receptive fuel bed, so that's just one of the things that that the homeowner has to consider as well. It's how thick of a layer as well.
It's not related to the fire value, but as an environmental issue, the ivy is not a native to the area, and it's been recommended to eliminate it. Where the ferns that you have are.
It's a possibility the sorrel might come back with the ivy gone.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for a great evening. And Captain Bither from CAL FIRE and Andrew, thanks for your piece as well. This was really great. Really appreciate everyone being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.